Okay, so now that I've introduced that framework to you guys, we want to start stepping into some signals that pricing is just maybe not quite where it needs to be. Another thing I've learned over time is that pricing is a lot about signals. And the key here is that it's really hard not to hear these signals if you're not paying attention, because you're so focused on your feature and a long list of enhancements coming your way, the very aggressive roadmap that you have to hit, or the product demo that's coming next with a huge customer. Those are so many things on the PM plate. It's easy not to pick up on these signals, okay? But I'm gonna help you with that right now. There are three main things to think about when you're looking for pricing signals. When it comes to growing SaaS and capturing value, the three main levers: retention, expansion, and acquisition. Without retention, you have a leaky bucket that completely undermines recurring revenue. Expansion is the key to getting that big multiple and growth. You have to make sure you have good expansion revenue there within. But acquisition is the name of the game. If you can't win any customers and win business, you won't be in business very long. So you have to watch for all three. Okay, so here's a very quick rule. I call it the 20/20 clear vision rule. When you think about ways to find if your pricing is off, what signals can you see very clearly? There's tons of them out there. I could spend the whole session on it, but let's look at these four quick ones. The first one is discounts, greater than 20% discounts. Are you offering and discounting your product at 30, 40, 50, 60% off? As I was mentioning, it's heartbreaking for a product manager to see that, but if that's happening, then there might be a problem with the price levels. The next one here is expansion. Less than 20% of your revenue is coming from expansion, meaning if you have $100 in ARR or $100 in MRR, even as an example, you want to have 20 of that coming from upsells and cross-sells. If not, if you're hardly expanding at all, then you have another problem with your pricing and packaging. Entry level, meaning your lowest end offering, your either entry package or whatever that is. Do you have more than 20% of your customers in that package? That could be another signal of a problem as well. Too many are in the low end and not moving up. And then lastly is churn. Are your annual gross churn more than 20%? If you're losing more than 20%, then there could be another issue there with alignment and fit and pricing and packaging. And notice the differences here in the relationships, that deep discounting oftentimes can lead to bigger churn. And that if you have too much in your entry level, that could be inhibiting your expansion. Maybe your entry level plan is too generous and nobody wants to leave, right? So watch just for each of these signals and how they could potentially be related to each other. 20/20. Another thing too is look up your lineup. Look at your packages. Break it down. I put this in here for you. You're going to get a copy of this deck later, so you'll see some of my comments. But very quickly, are you seeing way too much feature overlap between your offer mixes? Are you seeing hardly any differentiation but big price jumps? Again, are you seeing too many in your low-end plan? Most folks should be in the middle. Are you seeing, again, a lot of folks indicating that we sell list price all the time here. No one ever asks for a discount. We may be a little underpriced. Look for different signals like that in your packaging. Make sure your lineup makes sense and that the transition makes sense. Look at what you're charging for, all right? According to this chart here, most folks charge by the user or the seat. Usage and transaction, it's making its way up. This number here, 20%, was like half of that a couple years ago. So it's becoming more and more popular to charge by usage, and you can even have a hybrid of seats versus usage. But look, the seats is not always going to be the right way to charge. It's easy to understand, sure, but if folks can share logins, if there's major outcomes that are driven by activities and transactions in the software, then you may want to rethink if seats is really the right thing to charge for. So speaking of charging for, lots of different ways to capture value. You can go with consumption-based, simple pay-as-you-go, transactionals, rev shares. The most common here, where over 70% of SaaS companies are here in tiered by functionality. This is the most common. You can tier by also different volume transactions as well. The freemium model or free entry pricing is it's really an acquisition model in disguise, but it's how do you position free value to get paid value? Right. And so these are the four things you can think about as a very simple construct on how to capture value. But when in doubt, always ask. And as a product manager, again, you are in the best seat to ask questions about value. How would you feel if this product wasn't around? What's your alternative? How much bang for the buck are you getting for this product? What's the biggest problem it's solving for you? Really, how much does that problem cost you? Right? You want to start easing into different questions about what value means to them, not just if they like the product or not. Okay, so those are the signals, the 20/20 rule, some of the key things in packaging, etc. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I have one more section to go. And this one is about a playbook and some tools for you that you can take away and tangibly use. Okay, so starting with the secret formula on how to set your price.